Hi, my name is Matthew Shear, and as you already were told, I'm a junior double majoring in political science and creative writing. And today I'm here to present on the importance of the presidential debates on the presidential campaign. Now, a quick history. The presidential debate is actually a somewhat recent development within American politics. We don't actually see the first presidential debate occur until 1960 with the Kennedy-Nixon debates, and the Kennedy-Nixon debates is where we actually see much of the modern elements of the presidential debates appear, though even still, there's been a 16-year gap until the next series of debates in the Carter-Ford debates in 1976, where the actual tradition of having the presidential debates every election cycle starts. But to get to the main point, why are the presidential debates important? Why do they matter? Well, two reasons. One is the presidential debates are not actually about the position or policy of a candidate. They're actually really about how the candidates are perceived. They're about how the candidates come off during the debates more so than the policy they're actually explaining. And this connects directly to the second point. The debates aren't actually about trying to win over independent voters. They're about trying to motivate partisan voters, about motivating the candidate's own base to get out and vote in the first place. Well, here's an example of this. This is the Biden-Trump debate in 2024, and specifically a moment where Biden is talking about abortion in cases of rape.
There's so many young women who, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in to talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of more young women being raped by their in-laws,
Now, as you might see by that clip, Biden is not doing a good job at explaining his policy position. He is coming off as unconfident. He's stuttering while he's speaking. He does not seem presidential. And if we got polling done after the fact, we see this exact trend. We see that most people, when polled, were having Trump as performing better during this debate than Biden. However, when these same people were also asked about which candidate could handle each policy position better, we see Biden actually pulling ahead of Trump. Like for here, we see on abortion, 56% Biden to 42% for Trump. Now, what does it show? It shows that the audience watching this debate more so agreed with Biden than with Trump on the policy, yet his actual way he came out, the way he showcased himself during this debate was so bad that it didn't matter how many people agreed with him on policy. He never came off as presidential. He didn't showcase himself as the better candidate. And if you want to see the opposite of this, then we look at the Carter-Ford debates in 1976, specifically the second debate on foreign policy, where Ford says this line.
They've done so. There is no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, and there never will be under a Ford administration.
I'm sorry, could I just follow? Did I understand you to say, sir, that the Russians are not using Eastern Europe as their own sphere of influence?
Now, if you might know history, or if you see the reaction of the moderator, that fact is entirely wrong. And in 1976, there 1,000,000% was Soviet domination over Eastern Europe. And later on, post Carter beating Ford, one of the reasons we've been told that Ford lost is this line about Soviet domination. However, in polling done after the fact, Ford actually was pulling ahead of Carter on this specific question. When people were asked about Russian domination of Eastern Europe and who understood the situation better, more people agreed with Ford than with Carter. Why? It wasn't actually because of Ford's policy position. It's because Ford came off looking better. He seemed to understand it, to know it more, even if he didn't. When that moderator asked him a follow-up about that, asked him to, gave him a way out, Ford doubled down. He said that Yugoslavia and Poland had free and fair elections, which, again, is entirely false, but the way he came out about it and saying it made him seem like he understood it more, even though he didn't. And this is how these connect with each other. When a candidate is perceived better, does better during the debate, it doesn't matter the actual policy they're explaining. It motivates more voters who are part of their base rather than trying to change the minds of independent voters, because most humans are stubborn. We have ideas and we stick with them. And so it's easier to get people to get out and vote rather than it is to change the minds of others. And it also works the exact opposite way, like with Biden, where if a candidate does not showcase themselves well, when they fail to present themselves as the better candidate, it doesn't matter the policy agreement among the people watching, among the American voter base. If they come out bad, then it demotivates their own voter base to get out and vote. And they, rather than vote for the party, for the candidate they want to, they just stay home. And again, in most cases, this won't matter, i.e. it doesn't matter how well Mondale did against Reagan in 1984, Mondale was going to lose. But in cases like Nixon versus Kennedy in 1960, where Kennedy only won by 0.3% of the popular vote, or Gore versus Bush in 2000, where Gore lost by 500 votes in Florida, this is where that can truly matter. When if you motivate your base more, that can win you the election. Thank you.